So last night I was able to play the network test for Exoprimal. Exoprimal is a new Capcom IP, and a best way to describe it is basically Monster Hunter and Warframe. If they had a baby, it would be this game. And I'm surprised. Like, I'm actually really surprised. So the network test was roughly about 3.5 hours or 3 hours. So right off the bat, I want to say that character creation in this game is extremely bare bones. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not bad, but it could use some work. It could definitely use some more options. But at the same time, you're not going to be seeing your character too much. And I don't think seeing your character in the flesh is going to be that big of a deal. So I guess it's not a deal breaker for me. But it'd be nice to have some more options, to have some, better looking characters. Like, for real. I'm not gonna say that like the character models and faces look bad, because they don't look bad. It's just they're just not the, I don't know. I guess I'm used to seeing extremely attractive characters. That a lot of these characters look pretty I don't know, average, which is fine. I mean, average representation, am I right? Because I'm pretty fucking average myself. So I guess that works. But yeah, definitely more hairstyles, more face options, stuff like that. I don't expect us to be able to like contort our faces and shit like that. But other than that, yeah, it's good enough. But what's more important than mediocre faces is actually how the game feels. This game feels really good. Like, I honest to God did not expect this game to feel as good as it does. Like, it feels really smooth. It doesn't feel clunky. It doesn't feel like your Exoprimal suit, your Exosuit, or whatever it is. It doesn't feel like a tank. Like, it feels great. The gunplay feels pretty good too. On top of the game, just having a really good tutorial at the start. Like, this is good shit. The tutorial was very quick, concise. I wasn't confused. It pretty much got to the point pretty quickly, and I kind of understood, the objective. It was pretty good. And also, it just gave me a better feel for this game, which feels really fucking good. Did I say that before? Did I already say this game feels good? Like, this game, I've never even played Warframe, but I can tell you it probably feels better than Warframe. In fact, I take that back. I might get attacked. But listen, there's also a couple of different classes. So by default, I think there's long range, there's tank, healer, and also melee as well. So yeah, and I think each class also has a number of different variations, which isn't in the network test, obviously. But there's gonna be a lot to play around with within each class as well. At least that's what it seems like. The tank is really cool, but I'm not much of a tank person in most games, unless it's like Final Fantasy 14, because tanks are like, big ass swordsmen, womans, but yeah. And also, being able to change your exosuit on the fly is a kind of a game changer. I think it's really cool. Healer feels pretty good too, but I'm not that much of a healer person either, so there's that. So the only mode or the only playlist we have in the network test was Dino Survival. And Dino Survival seems like kind of like an assortment of kind of randomized different game modes in a sense. It's mostly PvE/PvP. So usually we're racing the other team, and depending on the game we get at the end, we're actually fighting off against the team directly. Which is good. I actually like this mix of PvE/PvP together. Yeah, it's really fun, and I think this game will probably last a lot longer because of it, to be honest. So far, my favorite class is actually melee, because I mean, I'm a fighting game player. I love melee weapons and Monster Hunter games. Like, melee definitely fits the build. I think my second favorite would probably be just standard long range shooter. It has a specific name, but standard long range shooter and melee, two of my favorite classes in this game so far. I haven't actually used tank in an actual match yet, or healer, so those are the only two I've used so far. Yeah, so the combat in this game, like I said, just like the rest of the game, the movement, the combat feels really good. And it's also, it's a lot funner like than it looks. I know seeing it on trailers, it's easy to say that this game looked a little generic and a little like boring, that it would get boring quickly, but no, honestly, it's quite the opposite of that. While it may look like it gets generic or standard horde game, it really mixes it up a lot. There's boss battles too against big ass dinosaurs, which is really fun. It reminds me a lot of Monster Hunter, or maybe something like Lost Planet in that regard. And then on top of the exosuits feeling like warframes, like it's kind of like a match made in heaven. And I think Capcom is executing this so well that it doesn't make any sense. Like, this is really, really good, and I'm hoping that this game, I'm hoping it takes off. I'm hoping it takes off. We get a lot of content for this game. It gets a lot of support. I'm just hoping. I don't want to see this game die, because even from the first network test, it's really promising. It's really fun. And just when you thought the hordes were already pretty crazy, wait until you get to the point where the hazard level reaches its maximum. That's when things get really crazy and really epic, because that's when you feel the dino horde. Like, it's also it's just pretty cool. It's really well done, and honestly, maybe it's enhanced because I love dinosaurs. You know, like, that's part of why I love Monster Hunter so much. Even though Monster Hunter isn't exactly about dinosaurs, but a lot of the wyverns do look dinosaurish. But yeah, this is the part when the game kind of turns into more of a tower defense type thing. So it's juggling kind of different game modes together. It's stringing them together to create like a really fun game session, is the best way I could describe it. And then you add PvP on top of that. It's just super duper fun. On top of your friends and like your whole party just doing their duties. Sometimes you guys can mix up the roles by switching your suits. Like, it's a good time, man. It's just a good time. Now, one thing that I'm sure that most people are wondering is if there's going to be any hint of Dino Crisis in this. I mean, I know people got excited about her at first when she first appeared, because she resembles the main character from the Dino Crisis games, and this game is a dinosaur game. So yeah, I guess we'll see. For the record, I don't think that character is that character from Dino Crisis, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some throwbacks to Dino Crisis with this game. I don't see why not, right? Especially a crossover. So yeah, I guess we'll see. There's even a payload mission, which is very reminiscent of what Team Fortress and Overwatch. And then that's also when more PvP comes into play, because in this mode, outside of team deathmatch, you're also able to actually meet up with the enemy team at the tail end of this mode, which is really cool. Both teams square off to see which payload survives. And then you can also take out the enemy team for more points. So yeah, this is really fun. Like, I can't express to you how much of a surprise this game is to me, because I'm telling you right now, I wrote it off as something a little generic, and that's not even necessarily bad. But I think the only thing I'm worried about right now is how this game is marketed. Like, is this game going to do well? Are people going to care about this game? And is this game going to like develop a player base? That's what I'm afraid of right now. I don't see too many people talking about Exoprimal. Even with this first network test, there's only a handful of people I've seen, like, in the general Capcom community, or even the Monster Hunter community, that was playing this game. So I am hoping that it does kind of take off, because if it doesn't, then obviously it's just gonna die. But I will say, for the first of its kind, for the first iteration in a new IP, this is very promising, and it's surprisingly really, really solid. Like, also, there were absolutely no technical problems within the first 3 hours. Well, the 3 hours of the network test. There was absolutely no network problems. So I would say for a network test that it was only, what, less than 5 hours, this was pretty successful. A good amount of people were playing from what I've heard. And it even runs really well on my rig. So yeah, this game is looking really promising, and I can't wait for the next network test to happen. I'll definitely be playing it again. So one last thing I want to talk about is the Neo T-Rex boss fight, because this was actually an amazing ass boss fight, and it really reminded me of something straight out of Monster Hunter. Like, it's just really good. A lot of the mechanics very similar to Monster Hunter. It's very engaging. You also get 30 respawns, which is pretty generous, but at the same time, this thing hits hard. It hits really hard. On top of you also juggling other hordes of dinosaurs. Like, this shit is insane. This is definitely like more of what I want to see with this game. With the full release, I want to see. I'm just wondering how many cool boss battles is going to be like this within the full game, and I want to see that expanded on. You know, I want to be able to battle different Neo dinosaurs and shit. Like, especially even in different locations as well. Like, I want a whole bunch of different maps. You know, maybe DLC Exoprimals, like, or exoskeletons, Exoprimals, mobile suits. Like, I want more. It's very promising. And listen, I can already see a Horizon Zero Dawn collab happening with this game, or an Horizon collab happening, since I guess Horizon's the IP. Yeah, I can also see shit like that happening. I can see crossovers with other Capcom properties happening, like the low-hanging fruits: Resident Evil, Street Fighter, Dino Crisis. Games like that getting crossovers with this would be pretty amazing. But yeah, all in all, Exoprimal so far seems very promising, and I just hope it launches well, for one. And I do plan to make content for this game. I really like it. I'm going to be playing this with my friends a lot. Hopefully there's a lot of tech to learn, being it's a Capcom game. So yeah, bada bing, bada boom. There's my impressions of Exoprimal so far. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!